Victoria, how did you find carnivore?
I kind of filtered through my keto-based dieting, which I had started 3 years prior when my husband had a heart attack and he had to lose 50 pounds. And he and I had gotten a bit chubby together because we enjoyed food so much. And we remembered Dr. Atkins for losing weight. Both of us had tried it in the 1970s. And we thought, well, we'll try that. And Dr. Atkins led us to keto. And we're keto very successfully. He lost his 50 pounds. I lost about 47. So we were doing okay. And I started watching YouTube's. Dr. Sean Baker was one that I was very interested in. And this was in 2017. And I liked his idea of trying carnivore, and I discussed it with my husband, and he said, "Okay, we'll try it." We kind of eased into it over a month or so, where we cut out the plants. We only in the last month of December we only had some cauliflower and some cucumber, but then by January we were fully meat and other animal proteins. That was how we did it. So really, I credit Dr. Sean Baker. And as we went along, I discovered Dr. Ken Berry. And he didn't do it till later in the year. He didn't go carnivore, but he was talking about it once in a while, kind of hinting at it. So it was of great interest to me. And I thought, well, I know that Dr. Atkins works. I know about ketosis. I know that the keto diet worked very successfully for me. So I think that carnivore is just going to work really well. But I didn't lose any weight for 8 months. I didn't lose an ounce. And I was so frustrated. My husband, meanwhile, he's busy losing 20, 30 pounds left and right. And what happened to me was, even through keto dieting, I had a herniated disc and my back pain was very severe. And I was doping myself with wine because I didn't want to go on the opioids. And I would polish off a half to three quarters to sometimes a full bottle of wine a day. I would buy it by the crateful. And I was pretty much trying to cut back when I was keto, but not terribly successfully because my back pain prevented me from standing for more than a couple of minutes at a time. So any excursion meant I had to have something to lean on, and I knew I was headed for a wheelchair. It in about 6 months of carnivore, I had cut back to maybe where I was a bottle of wine a week. So I was just having a little bit. I was still having it, and I was hearing that it's okay to have alcohol on carnivore. Some people still think that's the case, but I don't think so anymore. And I was tapering off, and I think that contributed to my not losing weight very quickly. But sometime in the 6th month, I was standing in the kitchen. I looked at my husband. I said, "I don't have any back pain. It's just gone." He said, "You sure?" I was pretty certain. And I tested it and it was gone. I had not been able to be comfortable in any position, not sitting, not standing, not lying down. I had that pain. And I remember when my doctor, I complained to my doctor, he got me some x rays. When my doctor showed me my x rays, he began to tear up because he also had back pain and he understood how painful it was. And bless his heart, we're standing there, we're just kind of getting all weepy about my horrible condition, the horrible condition of my back, which was a herniated disc, severely herniated, and 5 desiccated discs. So my back pain was very significant, and that was true for about 5 or 6 years prior. And keto did nothing for it. But in that 6th month of carnivore and not having lost weight, it was gone. It was nothing short of miraculous. It was wonderful. And that wasn't the only thing that I overcame because of carnivore.
Right. So what was it that so I guess when you went carnivore, you didn't have that weight loss in that time. And it was about 6 months until you got the realized the back pain was gone. What kept you going during that time?
Well, my husband was losing weight, and I figured it was the wine. So I was pushing it away, because I wasn't counting it as a carbohydrate. I was just kidding myself, of course, because it's not so much that it's a carbohydrate, it's that it's the fourth macronutrient. Alcohol will put you out of ketosis. And I wasn't following my ketones very closely. Once in a while, I might use a keto stick, and if it was a little pink, I was happy. So that was my motivation to keep my husband going, because he'd had the heart attack and he was the one who needed to lose a bit more weight. Both of us ended up, when we went into maintenance on carnivore, having lost about 80 pounds each, because we're about the same height and we were the same weight and we were eating the same food. But I did it for him because I was the one who shopped and cooked, and kept us on track with that. And I had noticed also in my third month of carnivore, I had a gout attack. And I was just so aggravated about that because I'd had gout for something like 35 years. And every month or so, I would have awful pain in my feet and my toes. And I had that with carnivore, and I'd heard, well, maybe this is supposed to heal me. And I was so disgusted. But I never had another gout attack after that in the third month. It stopped. It didn't come back in the second, third, fourth month. It was gone. It's still gone. 7 years later, it's still gone. My gout is gone, and I'd had it like clockwork. So there were some little things like that that kept me going. And not losing weight, I heard from other people. There were some people who'd mentioned, when you ask in YouTube, why am I not losing weight? Or you're not having enough fat. So I would try to adjust my diet. But there was a kernel of something that kept me motivated. And I'm very, very glad I did that, that I kept going, and I got rid of the alcohol, and more things started to happen and heal up for me.
Right, and that's 7 years now.
Yes, and in January
Wow.
we'll start our eighth year, because we started 2018,
Wow.
and if I do the maths, that's 7 going on 8 years. And yeah,
Wow. And so both you and your husband still going. Um, do you I mean, this is a long time. Have family and friends got used to this?
yeah, they're used to us. We're kind of the wacky relatives. They just sort of put up with us. And if we go to a family function, they very kindly will make one or two meat entrees or have a charcuterie board for us. They know that we're not going to eat the potato chips, and my husband will occasionally indulge, more so than I will, in stuff, but because for me, I know that I had wrecked my body badly enough. I had a twin pregnancy back in 1987, and I was bedbound for 2 months, and the only thing I could stand to eat was chocolate ice cream. And I think I pretty much ruined my metabolism then, because I'm extremely sensitive to carbs. And if I even anything will set me off, and Oliver too, or God forbid I have one of those protein bars, even if it has all the balance of the fiber and the net carbs and the total carbs. It's not for me. I can't moderate that. I just go out of ketosis.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to me. I can't moderate anything like that, so I just have to abstain. So, how do you eat day to day? Like, are you eating 2 or 3 times a day?
Um, it's largely 2 times a day. And my first meal of the day is actually a collagen protein shake made with water and ice. And I'll put, because I had gastric bypass surgery 25 years ago, I need to watch my B vitamins. Even with the carnivore diet, I'm just always a little bit low. And so I take a B complex, I put that in there. And I take a little potassium, I put that in there as well. So that's my first meal of the day. Then I'll have around noon time, 1 o'clock. I'll have something that looks like breakfast, because it's usually eggs and bacon, or breakfast sausage. And then my late afternoon, evening meal is just meat, some kind of meat, and that's pretty much my routine.
Right. Um, So was the gastric bypass that you had, was that something that it worked out for you at the time, or is it something that you had that you feel
Yes.
like, "I wish I hadn't done it"?
Well, I do wish I hadn't done it, but it did work out for me. In 20, no, it was 1998. I had a TIA, a minor stroke. And it was textbook because I had aphasia where I couldn't express myself. I couldn't speak. Words I wanted to say weren't coming out. Both of my hands were shaking and numb. And I felt like I was in an alternate dimension. And I was just walking around grinning, and someone in the office stopped and said, "You don't look very well." I said, "Yeah, no, yeah, no," and I couldn't speak well. So they took me down to the corporate nurse, and she recognized it right away and got me out of there. And I went to the to a hospital and got checked out, but it sort of had dissipated by that time. Anyway, I went to my doctor and he said, "Well, you're pretty much overweight, and I think your weight is going to do this to you. And if you want to live to see your children grow up," I had three children, and at the time they were pretty young, uh, "then you're going to have to lose weight." And I tried. They put me on a liquid diet, and that didn't work. I lost about 20 pounds. And then my doctor started talking to me about gastric bypass, which was new but fairly popular at the time. So I signed up for it, and with that, you have to go through all kinds of psychiatric examinations. You take a 3 or 600 question test, and you see a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and you get educated on how to eat. You get this little book, and you have to keep a journal, and you get warned about how dangerous it can be. And I had a very nice surgeon who was quite a veteran, and I was the last gastric bypass he did with metal staples, and he followed up with me. He was very, very good. I stayed. I lost 100 and I want to say 130, 140 pounds within a year, and kept it off for about 15 years until I met my husband. And then I had somebody I could cook for because I was a real foodie and I like to cook. So I could cook for him, even though I couldn't eat quantities of it. But I had maintained my weight on that. And if I had not and started the drinking and the fancy cooking and the eating, then I might have kept my weight off because I think I was fairly successful with a gastric bypass, more so than other people.
Got it. And so you've got no, lasting effects from that surgery or from the TIA?
Not the TIA, nothing from the TIA, and from the surgery, as I said, the only thing was a little bit of vitamin deficiency. Not a great deal. I mean, really, on the scale, it's just kind of very low. So that um, uh, other people have lots of issues coming from that, but I think my surgeon was pretty well trained, well skilled, and did a fine job of my surgery. So I've never had discomfort. In the beginning, I had what they call dumping, which is when if you eat carbohydrates, like sugary things, you start to feel very ill, and that kind of served me well. So I knew enough to stay away from that. But that didn't happen with the alcohol. So I was a social drinker, and then I became a drinker for self-medicating reasons.
And so all that, the self-medicating you were doing, that pain from that's completely gone, and the doctor and you were crying together. Has
Yes.
did that doctor say, "Well, maybe I should try this too"?
No, he didn't. He was just before I was still keto when I was seeing that doctor, and he passed away before I could do carnivore because he'd had gastric bypass surgery too. He wasn't the one who performed it. He wasn't my surgeon, but he understood. We had a lot in common, a lot to talk about between the back pain and the gastric bypass. He had not had a stroke though, but he ended up having a heart attack, and he passed away about a year later. So he didn't see me do carnivore, but he did see me do keto. And he was fine with it. He didn't do it. He knew about it, but he didn't do it. He just watched what he ate. Portion control was what he did.
And does your husband's cardiologist know that he's, eating this way? And is your husband's cardiologist having heart attacks because of it?
Yes, yes. He's on his third cardiologist only because we moved and at one point into another state, and at one point he just quit one that he was going to. But yes, they constantly push the statins on him. Now, his story is he had been on statins since the early mid 1980s. So at the point he had his heart attack, he'd been on them for about 20 years, and it did nothing for him. His cholesterol, the US numbers were, he was at 120 for total cholesterol, which is pretty low. I don't know what his triglycerides and HDL were at the time because I wasn't aware of that kind of thing at the time. But he was pretty much a compliant patient. He'd worked in the healthcare industry, and he did what he was told. And he had the heart attack anyway. So it really had the 20 years of a statin had no impact on his heart health, but it did have a lot of impact on his muscles, his legs. For years, he had terrible cramping in both legs, and that was because of the statins. 2 years after his heart attack, he quit statins, and it drove his cardiologist nuts. But he stopped taking ibuprofen, he stopped taking aspirin and paracetamol and Tylenol for that. He's so much happier and healthier now without the statins.
Oh, that's awesome. So have you had anyone around you say, "This is very interesting, let me give it a try"?
Not carnivore. Keto, yes. One of my sons, I have three sons, as an adult, had been doing keto because his girlfriend at the time had told him about it. She'd found it successful. She was a fashion model, in fact, and she used keto to maintain her figure. So he was on it off and on until about 2019. He was through 2017, 18, 19. He was on keto, but everyone else just kind of, they just sort of, circle around. They just sort of avoid. They don't want to do it. They're all foodies, and unfortunately I raised my sons to be foodies and capable cooks, so that they love the creative side of cooking. And both of them who are married, the third one is not yet married, um, do the cooking in their household. And that really, there are decisions that they make about that all the time. But and the families they married into all enjoy eating and drinking, and it's kind of inescapable. I don't get that. I had my sister try carnivore, and she only did it for a week, and it gave her some kind of gastric turmoil, so she decided not to do it anymore. But she hadn't told me, and I'd been on carnivore about 5 years when she tried it, and I was really puzzled. I had one friend who's tried carnivore after doing keto for many years and losing quite a bit of weight, and she had been doing it too. But both people who I know who tried carnivore did it without telling me, even though I've got two certificates that say I'm a diet coach. And I've been doing diet coaching through my Facebook group for 6 years. We're in our sixth year of the group, and it's all there for the purpose of helping people come to carnivore and understand how it works. So no, I haven't had many converts in my family or friend circle.
Right. So, assuming you did have someone come to you and say, "Look, I'm willing to give this a try for 90 days and see if this helps me lose weight, feel better," that kind of thing. Would you recommend they just rip the Band-Aid off and jump in, or would you advise them to transition in maybe through keto?
Um, I'm big on transitioning. I really am, because unless a person knows that they have that kind of personality that they have to rip off the Band-Aid, I really feel that it's such a sea change, such a cultural change, such a different mindset, that it's really hard for people to approach it. Even in casual conversation, you're going to die. That's too much cholesterol. Cancer causes causes cancer of the colon. You can't do that. It's terrible. So yeah, transitioning to me is ideal. And that way, I think people don't feel as deprived. And I would suggest starting with keto, but avoiding the keto desserts and all the sweetener stuff. And just trying, as my husband and I did, which we found was very successful, to get a few low oxalate vegetables and keep those around. And it felt really sumptuous to have some vegetables with lots of butter on them when we started having meat as our mainstay.
Nice. Um, so Victoria, if people want to reach out to you, do you have any way of getting contact, any social media?
Yes, I do. On Facebook, I have a group the called Carnivore Diet After Age 40. And we've got close to 24,000 members. As I said, we've been around for 6 years. And it is a group that welcomes people, and you can post at will. Um, we also have a library of information. There's the guide section of the Facebook groups, in the structure of the Facebook groups, where I have posted a lot of articles that are more like reference works, reference articles, and I will also refer to studies that support what we're doing. So, and there are about 40 different categories. I can come up with even more categories, but I tried to organize it for people, and going through those sections, you get a taste of what you're up against, issues that you may have heard about, like, should I take magnesium, which magnesium should I take, what about fasting, is fasting for me, how do I do it, a lot of how to's, a lot of information about what's leptin, what's lectin, and those kind of things. So we have a reference library. I spent, while I was going through college, I worked full time as a reference librarian in a technological institute. Got very aware of how research is done, writing bibliographies and picking up all the reference works and monographs and such, and the abstracts. So I really have that kind of a mindset about offering information to people. I tried to make it a little more organized than just kind of slapdash and here's a post and there's a post. That's one of them on Facebook. And the other things we have, there's a YouTube channel that my podcast partner and I, Mark Ennis, who is a health coach out of Dublin, Ireland, he and I record informative videos and testimonials, much like yourself. And that's called Carnivore Evolution. And the way you find it on YouTube is @Carnivore Evolution 2024, all scrunched together as one word. And the third place I am on the internet is Instagram, where again it's Carnivore Evolution 2024, and that is tidbits from, because you can't really, you can put some links in there, and in my highlights I have links to my YouTube videos. And I'm part of a community called the Carnivore Community Worldwide, and we share each other's posts, reposting those things, so I can be contacted through those three places. And my email, carnivoreevolution2024 @gmail.com.
Awesome. I'll link to all of those in the show notes. Um,
Thank you.
Victoria, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Well, it's been my pleasure completely. Thank you, Dave.